Let's bring in Eric Mandel. He is the director of the Middle East Political Information Network. And Eric, there seems to be, at least right now, a pause or a lull in the hostilities between Hamas in Gaza and Israel in terms of rockets being fired and airstrikes. Does this last in your estimation?
Well, actually today there were 4 incendiary kites, which may or may not throw things off. The idea that a ceasefire will hold is in Israel's interests. It's in Egypt's interest. In theory, it should be Hamas's interest, but let's think about it. So why would it be in Israel's interest? Israel would love to pivot to be concentrating on what it considers its true existential threat in the north, which is Iran. Israel has to give some relief to the people that are on the border there. They've been suffering for 4 months since the March of Return. Israel has no interest in reoccupying Gaza. The idea that Egypt is going to come in is not going to play.
You think Egypt doesn't have any sway over Hamas and their leaders in Gaza?
Well, that gets to the Egyptian reason why they want it. Well, Egypt wants Hamas's help with ISIS in the Sinai. And Egypt wants to become relevant. Sisi wants to be seen as a leader. He would like to facilitate a reconciliation between the PA and Hamas.
But why was this meeting a secret if he wants to be a leader? Why do you think they didn't publicize this meeting that he met with Benjamin Netanyahu?
Because he's meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, and even though the relationship between Israel at a security and an intelligence level is strong, and between Sisi and Bibi Netanyahu is strong, I was in Egypt last year in the foreign ministry, and below that there's a tremendous amount of hostility in Egypt to Israel. The populist propaganda incites the people there. There's a tremendous amount of anti-Israel, anti-Semitism below the surface, but at the highest levels, it facilitates both of their interests.
We've heard at the very high levels of the Israeli government a sense that, and claims that it's not Israel's problem to deal with what is going on internally in Gaza. And yet, Avigdor Lieberman, they're talking about opening the Kerem Shalom crossing. So is that perhaps a tacit acknowledgement that there are certain steps Israel can take to at least ease some of the humanitarian suffering?
Well, I think Israel wants to decrease the humanitarian suffering. I mean, this is a democracy, and they certainly would like to help the people there. The problem is some politics. You have people like Bennett, who's come out saying we will vote against any type of ceasefire there.
Bennett, of course, is on the extreme right in Israel's
Right,
parliament.
he's to the right of Bibi, Naftali Bennett we're talking about, who's a future prime minister candidate. And he wants, it's showing who can outright the other in saying we don't want to make a deal with Hamas because it gives Hamas a victory, saying their rockets, their incendiary bombs, this mass march of return, they got what they want. They got humanitarian aid and they didn't pay a price for it. And
so what's the problem with giving them a symbolic victory if you're going to actually be able to help all the folks in Gaza that need money and food?
Well, the question is they've tried to give money and food. There's been this, when Hamas is quiet, there are hundreds of trucks every day that go in there. The problem is, one, that they use them for other means, and two is they have a different agenda. It's not what we think in the West in helping the people there. Hamas has an agenda that is beyond helping the people. They don't want to, and the last thing they want to do is have the PA come in and take things over and have to give up their weapons. That's the other part of this deal that's going on. Egypt wants the PA to come in and take over. The PA will only come in if they give up their weapons. The chances of that is close to zero.
And you think it's in Hamas's interest, at least as the way they look at it, to continue this sort of low-grade burning of kites and conflict along the border with Israel?
Well, because they can scapegoat their inability to help their people rise economically by doing this. They could also blame Trump for decreasing UNRWA funding. You know, basically scapegoating works very well in this part of the world, and it's an ideological group that has that economics are not the primary thing. We have to not look through our Western prism.
Eric Mandel, he's the director of the Middle East Political Information Network. Eric, thanks as always for coming in. We appreciate it.